trailer. I can't even believe I'm doing this, or rather have to be doing this. I'm going to be giving a defense of George Pell today. Me. A lifelong atheist who, with disclosure, has begrudgingly accepted the gifts and benefits of Christianity on Western society, but I still really hate dumb people, whether they're gullible religious fools or, worse as I found out, dumb atheists with hubris, doing away with the inner blessings and embracing a hubris of hedonism and moral relativism, but still accepting religion nouveau of climate change, aka global warming, aka henny penny the sky is falling in 12 years, betwixt virtue signaling, social justice worrying of the identity politics. But I digress. Pell. George Pell. The one we laughed about via Tim Minchin's song, Come Home, Cardinal Pell.
I wanna be transparent here, George. I'm not the greatest fan of your religion. And I personally believe that those who cover up abuse should go to prison.
He's the icon of arrogance, the custodian of the Catholic Church in Australia, the keeper of the keys to the kingdom's purse in the Vatican, and a substitute fetish doll for all the mired up hate, anger, and resentment of sourpussed atheists and former Catholics. This is the man I have to arduously defend on my own honor. Let me explain further. I was a dyed-in-the-wool atheist up my whole life, up until the last 2 years. I was chortling with the likes of Christopher Hitchens and Dinner with Richard Dawkins, the type that would watch Cardinal Pell self-immolate on ABC's Q&A between the godfather of memes, Richard Dawkins, and hosted by the Teflon-friendly Tony Jones. He was the man I wanted to interview as a distracted journalist for Mind Food magazine on a review of Alain de Botton's book, Religion for Atheists. I was denied by his staff, of course, for speaking to him. He's just been recently convicted by a court for sexually molesting 2 boys, one since who has died of a drug overdose. Now, the serious allegation was given only by this one witness when it happened in 1996, some 20 years later, with no other witnesses in a part of the church after Mass where they allegedly were caught sneaking sacramental wine, and Pell was able to unrobe and unsheath his penis into the mouth of one of the boys who now gave evidence, while groping the other, now deceased. This was all done in a 6 to 10 minute window to commit the crime. Now, we won't be able to hear the witness testimony verbatim, and no member of the public or journalists were allowed to hear it. It was a closed court. Australians weren't allowed to even learn of the trial, thanks to the suppression order, which made Aussie news outlets unable to report on it, while any other news organisations overseas, like the New York Times, could. Because, of course, Australians don't know how to read international news. This is how behind reality the court is, or shows a blatant trust in the normie average Australian being uninterested in news and current events. In other words, an informed citizen, someone I would want regardless, someone responsible enough to look at the facts instead of the feels. I mean, look at last night. What did we have on TV? Leaving Neverland, the Michael Jackson thing that's going on. Now, if I was at a trial, sure, I'd think Jacko was weird, but sorry, Paul Joseph Watson, he was not a convicted pedophile, and you can't let that influence your logic left brain. Of course, we know that normal people can and do let that happen all the time. Remember the witch hunt of Justice Kavanaugh? The guy accused of rape, and everyone was tweeting #I believe Christine Blasey Ford, and the other 2 or more women who suddenly jumped out of nowhere onto the bandwagon, but nowhere to be heard of now. Think of the rape allegations of President Trump before his election in 2016. All these women nowhere to be seen, no trials, no court hearings of these women that had such a useful case. Or even now, think of Jussie Smollett, the hate crime, where all prominent members of the left jump on the bandwagon to believe he was assaulted by 2 MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters. And then it turned out to be a lie, and he organized the whole thing. This is the problem, an unfortunate problem, with believing allegations without firm evidence. The boy who cried wolf, if you will. We should be especially damning of people who create false crimes. And of course, the jury guilty conviction has brought out all the opposite of God-botherers with a resounding sense of sanctimonious exoneration of their views. Rot in hell, Pell. Leaves me with a disturbing uneasiness of the jury verdict. Unable to be procured, of course, the trial in its raw form, I can't help but wonder, did the trial by my own peers get it right? I mean, obviously, I have little to low regard of the proletariat voting, let alone deciding my guilt. It was Winston Churchill that once said, "The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter." For me, the best argument against democracy is watching how a trial by one's peers can be overwhelmed by the zeitgeist of the day. The modern-day witch hunt, which, for whatever reason, an indignance to Pell, a hatred of the Catholic Church, a hatred of religion, or personal issues with their own childhood experiences, they manifest into this fetish doll of casting all bad people's doings and sins, including maybe other priests, which is a separate subject for a separate time. They throw all these sins into the scapegoat of Cardinal Pell for him to take it on as a sacrificial lamb, the very image to me of a Christ-like figure. Now, amidst the lefty atheists and low IQ normies who have already shut off this video and stopped watching and listening, I am not absolving Pell or the Catholic Church from any other wrongs they have done, whether it was keeping an eye on other sexual abuse in the church, but to make these wrongs make Pell wrong on a maybe false allegation is an abuse of the justice system. We have one witness, 20 years ago, no other corroborating evidence. Nobody, apart from the jury, was able to hear the testimony of the one witness. What was the ratio decidendi? What was the smoking gun that made them so sure? The first jury was dismissed after taking 3 to 4 days and unable to come to a conclusion, forcing a new jury to come in. Do I feel uneasy with this verdict? You bet I do. The idea is innocent until proven guilty, but it goes even further with a criminal versus a civil trial. The judge or jury has to be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the person is guilty. This is not, well, balance of probabilities guilty. No. Also, furthermore, being declared not guilty does not necessarily mean I'm advocating he's innocent. Not guilty just means not proven guilty on his crime. It sucks, I know. Wouldn't it be great if, like most normies, I could think in my mind that the court gets it right every time, that I could just believe what people say? I mean, there is the option that he's telling the truth, the witness. He's telling the truth, he's lying, or maybe he just genuinely believes these things happened to him. I mean, that's why you have the Innocence Project in the States, sometimes advertised here on Aussie TV as a virtue signal from Griffith University, how they roll back guilty charges for prisoners languishing in cells for decades before being miraculously overturned thanks to new forays in science like DNA testing, which can unreservedly prove the person is not guilty. I mean, we apparently don't even have the dress like Monica Lewinsky for Bill Clinton. We do not have something damning in DNA evidence on this case. Peter McClellan, the chair of the Royal Commission into the Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, was reported to have said in a speech to the University of New South Wales Law Faculty that some trials were too complex for juries and they made poor decisions. Well, yeah. I saw something like that on the other day. American dude in prison. He was in there for about maybe 38 years in jail, was released and then subject to $1 million payout. And then there was his other yank. He got $21 million. A dude spent 39 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Let's bring it home. Lindy Chamberlain. Yeah, you know the one. The famous Aussie female next to Crocodile Dundee and the Crocodile Hunter. She's the "dingoes ate my baby," and everyone called bullshit in the public arena, and the jury put her in jail for 3 years. It's since been proven that she didn't commit the crime. Let's go further back in time, to the Brisbane Courier, reporting stories of Colin Campbell Ross, April 24th, 1922, being accused of raping and murdering a 12-year-old girl. His final words were, I am now face to face with my Maker, and I swear by Almighty God that I am an innocent man. I never confess to anyone. I ask God to forgive those who have sworn my life away, and I pray to God to have mercy on my poor darling mother and my family. The trapdoor was then released, and his neck was broken. Hopefully he didn't suffer any longer. The man was buried in an unmarked grave. His accusers, well, one of them got a reduced sentence, and the 3 women who testified shared in a large cash reward as he was found guilty. 76 years later, two independent scientific tests showed the evidence used to convict him, strands of hair, have been proven to not match the girl, and in 2008, Ross was posthumously pardoned in Victoria, albeit too late. You can read up on it in Kevin Morgan's 2012 book, Gun Alley. Back to the lefty backlash. Benjamin Franklin said it best, and I wish we had more statesmen like him today in politics versus the conga line of politicians who smartly just pander to what the rabble of the crowd want to hear. Ben Franklin said it's better that 100 guilty persons go free than 1 innocent person should suffer, himself paraphrasing another luminary, Voltaire, who is misquoted as saying I disagree with what you say, but defend to the death your right to say it. Witness the vitriol and outpourings of hate for Pell, and anyone who said anything nice about him over the years. Reinhardt, Murdoch, Abbott, Devine, Bolt, Shelton, Joyce, Jones, Forrest, Howard, a veritable who's who list of conservatives that the regressive list is just baying for blood now and wanting to punish as their court case has now supposedly exonerated their anger. The ABC conga line of the left has people like Tony Jones saying it was disrespectful, as we haven't seen this sort of heated discussion about a jury verdict in a long time. I mean, so bloody what? I can have contempt for court as a citizen as long as I'm not in contempt inside the court. If anything, the ABC ran a 3-part documentary challenging the jury verdict that Kelly Lane murdered her daughter in Sydney circa 1996, so I guess it depends on what Auntie decides is disrespectful in questioning the law. If we question the legislative and the executive, I do not see why the judiciary cannot and should not be questioned. I mean, even more so if the deciding vote is done by one of our peers. So-called peers. I mean, I don't like to associate with the common man. I, for one, can add myself reluctantly to the list of Pell defenders for the reasons listed above. I don't want to. I'm no friend of Pell. I've always disliked the guy. But I dislike stupid brain-dead zombies who toe the social justice conga line without any thought, any room that the jury might have gotten this wrong. Beyond reasonable doubt? Beyond reasonable doubt. This is a dark day for Australian justice. So, what do we do now? We head to the appellate court to see if this can be overturned or sent back for a retrial. Once again over at the conga line land, Karen Middleton, the chief political correspondent of the Saturday paper, declared that the Court of Appeal will be looking at matters of law, not matters of fact. But according to Gerard Henderson, executive director of the Sydney Institute, the court can also decide that a jury decision was not safe in view of the evidence. I mean, my own mother, not thinking enough, said, "He's guilty of being in the Catholic Church and that's enough." Much to my own embarrassment as an example of my own vestigial tale and own frail humanity that gets the feels mixed up with facts. Let's ramp it up a little bit for you, dear viewer, and ask your friends. It's a moral hypothetical with apologies to the wonderful, wonderful show by Jeffrey Robertson. And if you haven't seen that show, let alone are wondering, who's he? Why the hell would I have you on my jury? Here's the hypothetical. It's 1940. You are somehow in a neutral setting like Switzerland and have Adolf Hitler. Is it moral to convict him on a false rape charge of children just because it's literally Hitler? I think that's what we have right now. A watered-down version. I have hated Pell for years now, being an arrogant cunt of a man, although I never met the guy, I never went to his church, I never shook his hand. That's my perception. Don't like him. Some people have defended his character. Some people have on Twitter called me a pedophile defender and supporter. You can too. Go to Taylor Sean and let me know how you really feel versus your facts and embarrass yourself on the record. Look, the proper way is to have the public watch justice being served inside the courtroom, not outside for us to pontificate and ponder about the members of the pontiff down. We do not know what happened with the jury, and I think it is worse for the Australian public to not know. Justice not being seen done is justice not seen to be done. Think. And thanks for watching.